Hi and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do something on a very exciting day. Today is the first day of Biden's presidency, and today I wanted to start a new series called Politician Deep Dive. This is just gonna kind of be me talking about some politicians, talking about their lives, talk about how they've impacted politics in the UK and US, and hopefully to branch out to other countries as I educate myself more on them. I thought it'd be a great opportunity to start off with Joe Biden, as he has just been inaugurated. That was yesterday as I'm filming this, and yeah, I was meant to make this video when he first got elected and I did not, so here we are. On November 7th, Joe Biden was predicted to be the president-elect after he won a 306 electoral college votes and Trump won 232 is how it ended. Despite Trump's claims of fraud and that he won Pennsylvania and he went to over 50 different courts to try and say that the vote had been stolen from him, and after an insurrection on Capitol Hill on January 6th, Biden has become the 46th President of the United States and Kamala Harris is his Vice President. We're going to kind of do a deep dive into who Biden is, his life, his political career as a senator, as a Vice President and now President, and his successful 2020 presidential campaign that led him to win the election. Joseph Biden was born on November 20th in 1942, and he's had a long-serving career in the Senate and as Obama's Vice President for 8 years. He ran for the Senate in Delaware at the age of 29, and this was in 1972, and he was the 5th youngest senator elected. In 1972, as he was running for the Senate, his wife and infant daughter were killed in a car accident, as well as his 2 sons being injured. He proceeded to run for the Senate in 1973 and was elected for the next 35 years of his life, becoming Delaware's longest serving senator. He remarried in 1977 to Dr. Jill Biden, and he has a daughter. He resigned his post as a senator in 2008 to run along with Obama as his vice president, where they ran for the next 8 years and was succeeded by Donald Trump and Mike Pence. He announced he was running for presidency in April of 2019, challenging incumbent President Trump, who was served from 2016 to 2020. He ran against very notable people in the Democrat Party, including Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders in the primaries, eventually becoming the Democratic nominee and getting endorsed by both of these politicians in the run-up to the election. This pairing of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are making history, both Biden being the first Democrat elected who has also served as a vice president without it being like a continuation like JFK. He is also going to be the oldest president elected. He is now 78. He is the oldest president that's ever been elected. Kamala Harris, even though this isn't about her, I wanted to take a moment to mention, she's also making history as the first female vice president, as the first black vice president, first Indian vice president, and therefore the first female vice president of colour. That's kind of a quick overview of the last 35 years of Biden's life, but we're also going to go into a bit more detail. As mentioned, Biden was elected to the Senate in 1972 and he beat Republican incumbent Caleb Boggs. His campaign had reportedly very little money and he relied entirely, well, almost entirely on face-to-face advertising and adverts as sort of like passing out flyers and stuff like that. He didn't have any big donors or super PACs or anything like that to his campaign. During this election in 1972, he wasn't even 30, he was 29. He met the 30-year threshold just after he was elected. Threshold. He was elected to the Senate on November 7th in 1972, and this was with more than 3,000 votes, and 48 years later to the day he was declared the president-elect for the 2020 presidential election. During this time in the Senate, he had a variety of achievements and downfalls that I thought could be necessary to mention and discuss in this video. One of the things that's very relevant to his current presidency is that in 1987 he became the chairman of the Senate Committee of the Judiciary. He also entered the presidential race in 1987, but he dropped out after allegations of plagiarism. In 1990, he introduced the bill to the Senate of the Violence Against Women's Act, which is still in law today, and it was signed into law in 1994. Here's one of the downfalls. In 1993, he voted against homosexuality being compatible with military life. And in 1996, he voted for the Defences of Marriage Act, which barred individuals from equal recognition under federal law. This is something that he's later said that he criticises, and now he labels himself as an activist for LGBT people, but this kind of record of voting against LGBT recognition in federal law is a bit iffy. In 2002, he voted to authorise the intervention in Iraq. He's later criticised this decision as, obviously, Iraq wasn't the nicest of things to do, both in the UK and the US, just bombing a random place and killing loads of innocent people isn't great. In 2008, he ran for the presidential election once again and obviously became the vice president of Obama, but he focused his campaign around the Iraq War, emphasising foreign policy and also how his specialism in foreign policy kind of put him above Obama in the race. Obviously it didn't. Rudy Giuliani is quoted of saying there's only 3 things he mentions in a sentence: a noun, a verb and 9/11, and I just thought it was so funny because Rudy Giuliani's irrelevant now. Bye Rudy. Despite his strong presence in debates, for example in the presidential candidate forums in 2008, where he spoke about Medicare for all and changing the paradigm, he struggled financially a lot compared to Obama's campaign. Eventually he came 5th in a caucus in Iowa and he dropped out of the candidacy race, eventually becoming the running mate for Obama. I read a lot of different articles of this, and apparently prior to Biden becoming Obama's vice president, they didn't really get on too well, him and Obama, and this included Biden accusing Obama of stealing his foreign policy proposals after he dropped out, and Obama seeing Biden as patronising. However, during the election process they did become a lot closer, with Obama commanding Biden's campaign and the way he was able to appeal to working class voters that Obama struggled with throughout his campaign. There's reports that Obama told Biden privately that he wanted to give him a place in his administration, with eventually Biden turning this down, saying that he wanted to avoid it as it would affect his senator position. However, he eventually obviously did become his vice president, having to give up his seat in the Senate. On August 22nd, 2008, Obama announced that Biden would be his running mate, his vice president, in this election. In this campaign you saw a lot of kind of issues between Biden and Obama and kind of differences in how they approached the presidential debate. Wow, that went bright. I apologise for the lighting just completely changing. The sun decided to come out and melt all the snow. According to the New Republic, which I'm British, so I don't know what's a reputable news source or article source in America, so I'm just kind of taking what this one says. Democrats worried that Obama had been insufficiently aggressive towards John McCain. They said McClain. He's a different person. Who was his Republican opposition in the 2008 election and recently passed away. This article also argued that Biden was genuinely angry, and he demonstrated in his debut performance how eager he is to go on the attack against both the president and McCain. With Biden accepting to run for Obama in both 2008 and 2012 as his vice president, this seemingly ruled out Biden's running for the 2016 election. Therefore, it led Hillary Clinton, Obama's Secretary of State, to run against Donald Trump. During the 2008 and 2012 elections, Biden was hardly included in media attention, much similar to how Kamala Harris hasn't really been put in much media attention during this election, despite Mike Pence being in quite a bit. According to Pew's Research Center Project for Excellence in Journalism, found that during 1 week in September 2008, Biden was only included in 5% of the race, whereas his Republican vice president nominee opposition, Sarah Palin, was focused a lot more on. Probably because she's female and we don't like women. It's a joke. A lot of reports kind of said despite the population of Biden with voters at the time, Obama seemed to take issue with a lot of what Biden decided to say, his statements, his things that he came out with his staffers referring to them as Joe bombs. and reportedly keeping him out of these important discussions and meetings despite him being the vice president nominee. An example given by the New York Times, which is kind of mental, this example is from 2012 but it still illustrates the point, was that Biden said that he was absolutely comfortable with same-sex marriage, whereas Obama wasn't ready to address this issue. Okay, Obama. In terms of the election, according to the Pew Research Center, white people made up 76% of the vote, being the lowest share for white people ever at that time. Black people made up 12.1% of the vote, Hispanic people 7.4%, Asian people 2.5%, and then others. A quote from the Pew Research Center was that the level of participation by Black, Hispanic and Asian eligible voters all increased from 2004 to 2008. Voter turnout of Black voters increased by 4.9% from 60.3% to 65.2% in this election. And another quote from the Pew Research Center was that much of the surge in Black voter participation in 2008 was driven by increased participation among Black women, which is around 5.1%, and younger voters. Black voters aged 18 to 29, so considered young voters, increased by 8.7% from 49.5% to 58.2%, according to an analysis by the Center for Information and Research on Civic Learning and Engagement, CIRCLE, at Tufts University. Nearly all, 95% of Black voters casted their ballot for Obama, being the Democratic nominee, being a mixed-race man. Latinx voters voted 67% for Obama and 31% for John McCain, and Asian voters voted 62% for Obama and 35% for McCain, whereas white voters supported McCain 55% and Obama 43%. Now we're going to delve into the achievements and downfalls of the Obama-Biden administration from 2008 to 2012 in terms of relation to what Biden actually had direct impact on. I might do one of these videos for Obama. He was quite a key member in American history, so I'll just kind of talk about the ones that Biden had direct involvement in. He oversaw the implementation of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act in 2009, which then led to the biggest economic recovery plan in the US history as an attempt to rebuild the economy, lifting them out of the Great Recession of 2008. Biden helped pass the Affordable Care Act, which is nicknamed Obamacare or Medicare, which guaranteed health coverage for Americans with pre-existing conditions and 20 million people who were previously not insured. I find it, the whole Americans not being able to get free healthcare, mental. Like, I could not deal. He was involved, as I said earlier, in the original Violence Against Women Act in 1994, leading to a decline in victims from 2.1 million in 1994 to 907,000 in 2010 from intimate partner violence. He oversaw the dispersion of $90 million for clean energy in the 2009 Recovery Act. Biden's one of his main roles as the vice president, he was heavily involved in overseeing the situations in Iraq and reporting to both Iraqi and US leadership. Some reports, I've put some reports because it was a bit like, we think, and I don't want to put something in and say it's fact when I couldn't find many sources for it, said that Biden opposed the US mission to kill Osama bin Laden, which they carried out. Obama killed Osama bin Laden. I don't know about that. I doubt it. Both Obama and Biden were re-elected in 2012, with Biden being officially nominated on September 6, 2012, and challenged by the Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan, couldn't remember his name then, Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan, president and vice president nominees. Obama and Biden won 332 electoral college votes to Romney and Ryan's 206, with 51% of the vote, which is a higher mandate than Biden won in this election. In 2012, Biden headed the gun violence task force following the Sandy Hook shooting, but ultimately this didn't lead to any legislation. I want to here put in a trigger warning as I'm about to discuss sexual assault, rape, sexual violence. You can go to this time to skip past that. In 2011, Biden also gave a speech to the University of New Hampshire regarding university sexual assault culture, which is a big issue in America, stating that no matter what a girl does, no matter how she dresses, no matter how much she's had to drink, it's never, 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 never okay to touch her without her consent. Thanks, Biden. Cool. Which is relevant as Biden was put on the White House task force to protect students from sexual assault in 2014. In 2015, there were increasing reports of girls and women feeling uncomfortable with the way that Biden placed his hands on them, which was paid to close attention with the media in the run-up to the 2020 general election. As mentioned earlier, Biden announced that he was running for the presidency in the 2020 election following rumours of him running in 2016, but he didn't. On April 25th, 2019. Biden was generally ahead of other Democrats in national polls, but still lagged behind in a few caucuses and primaries, namely Iowa and New Hampshire. Reportedly, he was behind Bernie Sanders in the Nevada caucuses, despite reaching the 15% required by 21.6 points. That's a lot of points. Following Bernie Sanders suspending his campaign in April 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic, Biden was the assumed nominee, with him being officially nominated at the 2020 Democratic National Convention, as well as announcing US Senator Kamala Harris as his vice president. Once again, there were many allegations of him inappropriately touching people, with one woman called Lucy Flores saying that the way he touched her was an intimate way reserved for close friends, family or romantic partners. As mentioned, Biden was elected as the 46th President of the United States in early November, beating the one-term incumbent Donald Trump, with his inauguration being yesterday on Wednesday the 20th of January, 2 weeks after the insurrection, 1 week after Trump's second impeachment. Now I want to talk through some of the policies that Biden has said he will be implementing once he becomes president well, he's president now, but from 2021 onwards. And for this I'm going to be referencing the research that has been done by the @SoYouWantToTalkAbout on Instagram. I will leave their link down below. Go check them out. They share so much informative stuff, and I share a lot of their posts on my Instagram stories because I find it so fascinating, and they do a lot more research. So not my research, their research. So I've splitted this kind of into categories of when he wants to implement them. So the first thing is on day one, which is as I'm filming. He wants to declare a COVID-19 action plan. He wants to introduce 100 days of wearing a mask mandate. That means that people should just wear a mask for 100 days, and not like a challenge. And this should help reduce a lot of the deaths and a lot of cases in America. He wants to create a federal task force to reunite children who were taken at the border by the Trump administration back to their parents, to rejoin the World Health Organization and the Paris Climate Agreement. He wants to end the Muslim travel ban. He's not going to end the travel ban in terms of everyone during COVID, but end the specific don't let people travel from Middle Eastern countries he wants to get rid of. Good. He wants to send a bill to Congress repealing liability protections for gun manufacturers and closing background check loopholes. He wants to end the immigration bill to Congress, creating citizenship opportunities for undocumented immigrants and those affected by DACA and those who would have been covered by the proposed DREAM scheme under Obama. He wants to move to eliminate tax cuts that Trump passed in his first year of presidency. He has talked about kind of other people in his administration, so this is his Secretary of Housing, wants to form a task force to provide a solution to ending homelessness in the US. To immediately address systemic and institutional racism and try and close the racial disparities within the US justice system. He wants to restore federal workers' right to unionize, sign an executive order saying no member of his admin could influence the Justice Department, and he wants to freeze deportations. Moving on to environmental things. So these aren't day one plans anymore, these are just throughout his presidency what he wants to try and implement. He wants to lead the world to lock in enforceable international agreements to reduce emissions in global shipping and aviation, impose carbon adjustment fees or quotas on carbon intensive goods from countries failing to meet the climate and environmental obligations, create clean energy export and climate investment initiative. Moving on to immigration, ensure that ICE and CBP personnel abide to professional standards and are accountable for inhumane treatment and kind of reduce inhumane treatment by ICE officers. He wants to end Trump's asylum policies, his mismanagement of asylum systems, which lead to violence and chaos. He wants to end the prolonged detention and reinvest in a case management program, reinstate DACA, block federal funds used to build the bloody wall between Mexico and America. Public safety, federal resources to help prevent violence against trans women, specific attention to trans people of colour. Reauthorize the Violence Against Women's Act, I was like, wow, what? To keep firearms out of abusers' hands. And then kind of another section, appoint bipartisan national commission that would have 180 days to study the judicial system and propose reforms, and create a cabinet level working group focusing solely on promoting union organising and collective bargaining in public and private sectors. Moving on from that, we're going to look at Biden and Harris's Twitter accounts, where they post regular updates on their plans for office, and now they are at POTUS and at VP, and I love it. And this is irrelevant to the video. Kamala Harris's husband is at Second Gentleman, and it's just cute because there's never been somebody who's attracted to men being the vice president, and that's just at Second Gentleman. Here are some of the suggestions that Biden and Harris have tweeted throughout the lead up to election day, up to him being declared the president-elect and him being officially inaugurated on 20th of January. Putting funding into the vaccine for coronavirus and end the narrative given by Trump that corona will just go away on its own, that you can do it, solve it with injecting disinfectants and all the shit he came up with. To work to protect America and its allies from terrorism and extremist violence. He paid particular reference to the Paris attacks in 2015, but also kind of trying to reduce Islamophobia within society. Wants to protect and expand on the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. He wants to work quickly with Congress to dramatically ramp up health care protections, get universal coverage and lower healthcare costs. Establish a COVID-19 task force. This should be from day one. He tweeted this back in like November, so I've got like, dependent on the situation in January, we're not doing well. That will put science at its core and listen to Dr. Fauci. Implementing nationwide testing and tracing and ensuring vaccines are safe and free for all, as well as confront the racial disparities that have become evident during the course of the pandemic. He wants to rebuild infrastructure, create millions of good paying jobs, travel faster and clearer, invest in a carbon pollution free power sector by 2035. Obviously he won't be president by 2035, but he can implement the strategies to get there. Funding high quality zero emissions public transportation, protect LGBT rights, fund an economy that gives all people, including people of colour, a chance to succeed, make corporations and the wealthiest pay their fair share of taxes, won't ask a person making under $400,000 a year to any more taxes, which was a lie that went around during the election from the Trump campaign, like he's gonna steal all your money, and it's like, no he isn't. Ensure veterans have the care that they need when they return home from war. That's kind of it, and I wanted to just kind of say I'm very hopeful for this presidency. I am not completely directly affected by this presidency as someone who lives in the UK, but it'd be nice to see them deal with corona, just as we're not properly dealing with corona. Following 4 years of a tyranny by Trump, he is making history as the first president to lose the presidency after one term in a while, but also the first president to lose the presidency after one term, as well as the Senate and the House. And yeah, he didn't have the House, but the Democrats won. The Senate, it's 50-50, which means that President Kamala Harris gets the like deciding vote, which means Mitch McConnell is gone. Not gone, he's still a senator, but he's not the majority leader in the Senate anymore. Trump, this is, refused to attend Biden's inauguration, making him the first president to do so in over 140 years, despite Mike Pence attending and doing the proper ceremony where they come down the steps. He will go down in history as the president with the lowest approval rating, sitting at about 33% right now, as a terror inciter, and the only president to be impeached twice. This presidency will go down as a disgrace in American history, and from today, Trump is nothing but a private citizen who is open to investigation and prosecution. So yeah, that's kind of a video on who Joe Biden is, who the new president of the United States is. I want to, as much as I've been like happy about Biden in the last 40 minutes as I've been speaking, but also on social media, and that one point I saw that was very clear was like, you can be glad that Trump's presidency is over without thinking that Biden is the best candidate. He is not. He is far from, as much as I'd like politics to go left in America, but it's better to have someone who's a bit right-wing than someone who incites violence on democracy and doesn't get impeached properly for it. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you'd like to see my opinions more on the presidency and American politics as well as UK politics and all sorts, head over to my Instagram where I post things on my story a lot, ranting a lot about what's going on. I'll leave the link down below, as well as to my art Instagram. I've started selling art prints, which is something that I talked about in my Getting My Life Together video, that I wanted to start selling them, and I am. So head over there if you want to see what I'm selling, but also look at my art with your eyes. And yeah, thank you for watching. I will see you again soon. Let's enjoy this new presidency and hope that, well, it will be better than the last one. Yay. Goodbye. I'm saying for John McCain. I've done it in here. I've written John McClane. That's Die Hard. That's very different. Do they call them general elections? Or do we just call them general elections? Do Americans say general election? It seems not. Throughout this, if I've said general election, it's because I'm British. Apologies. And the fact that he's making history as the... No. Why? Go away. I didn't say Siri. Dicks.